Hello, everybody. Dr. Troy here. Welcome to our podcast, Everything Disc. I'm excited for today's episode. I got Pablo with me. He's our behind the scenes podcast guy. And he's been listening to our podcast here since we started our inception. But he's like, man, I really want to ask you some questions. So why don't we do a show? And I want to drill down some questions on golf and maybe some other things, spine related, disc related. So I'm happy that you're on the show today, Pablo. And I know you said you wanted to look like a golfer. So you dressed up for the occasion. And I said, well, it's raining here. So you definitely look like a rain fitted golfer with your hat and your rain jacket on there. So
I'm
Pablo,
ready to
welcome to
go.
the show today. You're
Yeah,
ready,
man.
man.
Thank you. I know you love golf, so I have to make sure I look apart.
That's right. Fit the part, man.
I don't know if I told you, but I did golf when I was a kid, and for my most recent job in Vancouver, Canada, I was a director of client relations for a construction company. So I had to go golfing, part of my job, quite frequently, especially in the summer. I would have weeks of just golf. So mostly
Love it.
this kind of golf, but I did swing.
Liquid golf, we call that.
Is that what you call it? Yeah, we did a lot of liquid golf, but I did end up getting pretty good. I'm usually pretty good with sports in general, so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, I got some questions for you. I'd love for you to answer them. They
Absolutely.
are related to golf, and I think your everyday folk will benefit from this information too. So let's hit it. So the first question is, what is the most common spinal issue you see in golfers, and why does golf create the problem in the first place?
Yeah. So yeah, good question. I see this all the time. People come in all the time. And I'd say number one is back pain or hip or leg pain. That's probably the number one thing we'll see. And then the next thing we see is neck and shoulder problems. Occasionally you get some wrist, you get some elbow, you get some foot, but for the most part, the big thing is low back, hips, and especially as golfers get older, they get tighter and they're not doing things to help maintain as much of their flexibility and function as possible. So, it goes beyond just pain. Pain's just the symptom. So it's not necessarily swing mechanics, even though that could be it, but there's some underlying root structural things that really can manifest and debilitate golfers from playing. I see it all the time at the range. I'm like, hey, Mike, you playing golf today? No, my back hurts. Hey, Bill, you want to play next week? No, my shoulder or my neck. And I'm always like, okay, well, I see them out there hitting balls every single day, and they're probably approaching it from the wrong way from a recovery standpoint. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing we'll talk about. One of the biggest things is how to recover and get in the right frame, if you will, health frame, health mindset, body mindset, recovery mindset, so that you can recover and play at your best.
So it sounds like there's a lot of mind happening, a lot of thinking that needs to be tied with your body, like speaking to your body. Like, what is it? What is some of these, I guess, pre and during and post things that you should consider when you're
Yeah,
golfing?
one of the things, I had a patient today, back pain guy. He's been suffering for 30 years. He's not a golfer, but that's fine. So I could make him a golfer. And I asked him, I go, well, what did you eat for breakfast? And he said, nothing. I go, you've been in pain for 30 years. So what's running your body right now? And he's like, I don't know. I go, well, I'll tell you, you're breaking down muscle to use it as fuel. And so you're breaking your body down instead of recovering and healing. No wonder you've been in a 30-year pain pattern because you're not in the right zone. So he goes, well, when I go home, I'm gonna eat a bowl of Cheerios. And I go, how much sugar is in Cheerios? And he's like, well, it said only 2 grams. So I'm like, no, 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 let's look. So I get on the internet, look, 28 grams of carbohydrates. And he's like, well, yeah, that's fine, but it only said two. I go, no, you read 2% of the daily allowance. And so he didn't know what he was doing. And then he was doing some treatment. So I came back to him and talked to him while he was on our decompression table. And I said, do you know how many cubes of sugar are in a bowl of Cheerios? He's like, no. I go, 7.5 grams of sugar. And he goes, ooh, that's probably not good for my diabetes. I go, no. So you didn't eat till 11 o'clock. You're burning muscle. Now you just go back and put sugar in. Your body's in a state of, it's just being dumped with insulin and sugar. And no wonder you're in chronic pain. And then he's like, well, I'll just go eat some oatmeal. I mean, that's what Cheerios are made of. So I look up oatmeal, right? And it's got 20 6 grams of carbohydrates, minus 4 for fiber. So it's like 23 grams of carbohydrates. I go, you know how many cubes of sugar that is in your 1 cup of oatmeal? It's 5.5 cubes of sugar. And he's like, oh boy, that's not good for my diabetes. I go, no, I'd rather see you eat something high in protein, higher in fat, get off the carbs. Most people are carb, they suck down carbs for fuel when the body's preferred choice of fuel is going to be fat. And, I know some of the vegans will argue with me on that, but, those are more the pro, people who are into nutrition, but the average day person, they're probably not eating enough protein. They're probably not eating enough good fats, and we're not talking about fats like canola oil and sunflower oil and peanut oil. We're talking good fats, fats from like butter, from coconut oil, from olive oil, avocado oil, you know, those types of oils to fuel the body. And so this guy was in a state of catabolism. He's basically destroying his body slowly. And it's been that way for 30 years. And he's probably 100 overswollen. I don't want to say overweight, but he's swollen because of the carbohydrates. He's just storing it. So I think looking at what we're putting in our body first thing, what's our routine in the morning? Do we get up and go and pound down a cup of coffee and a donut? I looked up bagels, and I was telling my staff earlier, I said, do you know how many cubes of sugar in the average bagel? It was like 9.5 cubes of sugar in the average bagel. They're like, you just ruined it for me. And that's what people do. They grab sugar in the morning and go. And I read a book recently on adrenals, and it said that 87% of people have adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion. And I know that's what happened to me with my heart stuff is I just was going, 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 and I just didn't take time to recover. So the recovery part is really what I'm trying to get after in the long way. Because most people, what do you do in the morning? Do you get up? Do you drink water first thing? In the morning, your cortisol is going to spike within the first few minutes of waking up. And if you drink 16 to 32 ounces of water, that's going to help drop your insulin down so that you can get that cortisol spike so that you can start your cycle through the day. But most people dump in a bunch of sugar, spikes their insulin, their cortisol's off, and then they're tired. A lot of people wake up tired, and that's a sign something's going on, probably with how you're fueling your body. So I think the big thing with golfers is and anybody is just putting the right fuel in to start the day. A lot of people skip breakfast, this intermittent fasting. I think, oh, that's cool, maybe once a week. But the people who do it, I had a patient who was doing intermittent fasting, lasted about a month, lost 40 pounds, got off of it, and went back to 40 pounds heavier again because he went back to his old program. So sustainability is the key with this thing. Longevity. Gary Player wrote a book 40 years ago called Golf Begins After 50. He's 90 now and he's still playing golf. And I'm like, I think that is a good model, whether you're a golfer or a walker. What can these people do in their 90s? And what are they doing to really maximize their function instead of, being pushed around in a wheelchair, having a walker? And we got to take care of ourselves. That it starts with, I think, putting the right fuel in the body.
Wow. Wow. Honestly, I didn't think you were gonna answer any of that questions like that. And I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Let's unpack this. But I mean, it starts with the foundation, and then you get. I see this all the time. I go to the range, and these guys are just pounding balls, pound, 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 pound. When you play golf, you don't go out there and pound the ball. You walk to the hole. Hopefully, you're walking kind of slow. My wife thinks, I run to every ball and hit it, and run to the next ball, and I should be done in like 25 minutes for 18. That's what my wife thinks. But a lot of people play golf like that. There's guys at my course, they're bragging, hey, I played 18 in 2 hours. And I'm like, did you even putt the ball? Were you hitting into your friend? So most people want to go, 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 go. But I think you got to have a time when you go, and then you also have a time when you chill out. And so we could unpack this whole thing and dive into it. And it's fun. I really like golf because it really relates to life. And if you're playing good, guys know this, when you're playing good, you're in the zone, you just feel relaxed, you feel comfortable, you feel confident. And that's how it should be in life. Not, I got to rush to the next shot. you know, I gotta hit really big shots like these other guys, and just being in that right frame of mind, if you will. Plus, if you're not fueled up properly and you're tired, then you start forcing things, and that's when some mistakes come in. Golf's hard enough anyway. Some guys say it's easy. If you really break it down, it's easy, but we make it so hard and complicated that then we don't perform good. But these guys at the range are pounding balls, and I no wonder they hurt. What are you doing to recover? What did you do to warm up? They just go out there, grab their driver, and just start ripping balls. And that's when I start seeing joints. Like if somebody has a joint in their spine that is not moving properly and they go and accelerate through that joint, they're going to injure it. And it's the repetitive motion. I know this because I tore my labrum in my shoulder because of the way I was swinging. I was trying to kill the ball. I tore my labrum, which was made it really hard to lift my arm. And if I stay on top of my rehab protocol that I've designed to help my shoulder, I mean, I do better. I was having bad neck pain and shoulder pain, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can play golf because it hurts. And now, since I started really looking at nutrition and what can I do to help me recover and build strength with flexibility in my body, it's been a game changer, and that's really what I bring to the table, not only for golfers, but for patients. Because, most people sit all day long, and then they go out and try to pound a bucket of balls, for example, and they injure themselves without really knowing because their body wasn't prepared to handle that load or that stress, if you will.
Yeah, this reminds me of my bodybuilding days, how I screwed up my shoulder lifting without any warm-ups and stuff. And yeah, when you're younger, you just kind of go. Your body's a lot more flexible and stronger and it recovers faster. But now, turning 41, I'm like, man, this is never gonna go away, is it? And my body kind of feels like not as flexible and strong anymore.
Well, the thing with the symptoms, is I always go, let's go for the cause. The traditional approach, not that I'm picking on anybody, but the traditional approach is I go to the doctor who's been trained to prescribe what medication to address that symptom or, reduce that symptom. So there's no really like what's causing it. People come in and they'll go, hey, Dr. Troy, I got a headache, or hey, my back hurts. And then they go, oh, I took Tylenol, it went away. I go, "Well, did you have a Tylenol deficiency or what really caused the headache?" I mean, I asked those questions to get him to think about it. Like, why do I have a headache? Did I not sleep good last night? Am I dehydrated? Did I over-exercise? Do I have some stress in my mental life or my physical life or chemical life? I know my wife will always say, "I'm not stressed." I'm like, "You're just talking mental." You also have the physical stress, which could be, for example, golfers, repetitive, swings. I mean, there was this one guy who's really fit looking, and he would hit 2 buckets of balls, which is about 200, 250 balls. That's all he do. Just go crush balls all day long, which is fine. He's in great shape. He took care of himself. But for the average person to do that, not going to happen. They're not going to be able to walk the next day. So, there's this whole key foundation to preparing your body to get healthy, and then the recovery part is good. Most people, I'll tell you, Pablo, they're not warming up. I ask my patients, I go, what do you do for exercise? And they go, oh, I go to the gym and lift really heavy. I go, what'd you do for a warm up? I did push-ups. I'm like, that is not a warm up. You want to warm up your body. You want to dump the blood out of your digestive system, basically into your skeletal muscles and joints and warm them up properly. What would a proper warm up look like? Maybe 10 to 15 minutes walking really easy on a treadmill. That's a really good way to warm up and then also cool down. I just see guys grab the club and go, and I see this all the time with patients. They'll go play football on the weekend or go do something on the weekend, and they wonder like, why on Monday am I so wrecked? Because you did do nothing to prepare yourself, you did nothing to help yourself heal, and you're overtraining. Probably most people overtrain.
This is gold information. This is good stuff.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways to look at how to help people recover. I'm just trying to get the message to people, even my patient. I tell them all the time, "Did you drink some water?" "No." I'm like, "Okay, so you're dehydrated. So now your body's in a state of stress. So let's start with just water." Dr. Salisbury, you've heard of Salisbury steak. Back in the 1800s, he was a medical doctor. He'd have patients come to him, they were sick and had all kinds of problems on medication. He would say, "I want you to eat ground beef 3 times a day." And, we look at that and there's all these things, but what he published was, "Hey, we're seeing all these great results by people who are just eating beef all day." And so most people are eating all these processed carbs and sugar, and that's just an example of something that can shift what we're doing to get a different result. And that's what it's about. Do we want to create health in our body or do we want to go down this chronic disease pathway?
Man, this is like a whole coaching call for me.
Well, this is what I do all day long with patients.
And nutrition, that's so important. And warm up. Yeah, I guess those are the
Warm up.
biggest key takeaways just in life in general. Don't just dive into it. In life in general, I like that idea of, like golf could be something that is intense or it could be something that is peaceful. And life
Absolutely.
can be the same thing. Life can be something that is intense or something that could be peaceful. And it's just kind of what I'm hearing is step back, assess, do the right protocol, take your time, and then live
And
a
then
life.
go. Go and I'll use the moon as an analogy, or the oceans. You know, the tide comes in, the tide goes out. The tide goes in, the tide goes out, and it's a nice, easy rhythm. Most people aren't in rhythm with how their body works. They're trying to force it. That's what happened to me, Pablo. I was just like go, 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 busy practice. I moved my practice, kids busy, go, 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 and I wasn't getting into that cycle of rest and recover. I was always in go mode. And that, my friend, is going to cause some problems, which it did for me. And that goes back to the tortoise and the hare. I got patients in their 70s and 80s, and I'm like, I don't like using the word exercise because people think you're doing 300-pound bench presses. I'm like, are you moving your body daily? And they're like, well, I can't do things. I'm like, you could walk, you could ride a stationary bike, you could swim. I just want you to move. Gary Player in his book, Golf Over 50, he's big into the treadmill. He's like, I'll walk on my treadmill 20, 30 minutes. And that's one thing I like about golf. You just go for a walk and it's nice and easy. And we can get into heart rate and training in the right zone depending on your age. Because I'll tell you, a lot of people, they train hard, 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 and then they're exhausted when they're done working out. I've been, with my daughter, for example, I've been doing some training with her, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do these little ladder drills, or we're going to do some squats, or we're going to take a weighted club and we're going to swing that 30 times, for example. And I want you to sit on your derriere, and I want you to rest for 2 minutes. I want you to bring your heart rate down. So we're going to rest and recover, and then we're going to go rest and recover and go. So you create that wave, right, Pablo, like the ocean exercise. We're going to run, 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 and then we're going to rest. Run, 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 rest. So we start getting into a rhythm, and your body actually likes that versus just a chronic state of go, 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 chronic state of stress, stress, stress.
Wow. This is a whole masterclass, but it's really 101 stuff, the fundamentals,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
the
people forget
fundamental.
the
It's back to the basics. You know, I I messaged my very first coach. You never forget your first, right? So I messaged my very first coach, and he passed me off to my new coach. And he said, when you win the club championship someday, don't forget to mention me. And I'm like, I always mention you because you taught me the principles. And I said, I'm reading Gary's book. He's like, I never read it. It was written 40 years ago, but the principles are the same. And we just, in golf, we go, it's the grip, how you grip the club. That's what the club face is going to do. How you stand, grip, posture. Are you bent over? Are you tip sideways? Grip, posture, and then how are you standing? Are you standing down the target, close to the target, open to the target? So back to the basics, and it's interesting because patients watch TV and they think, everything they advertise on TV is healthy for them. When that's big, there's big money there. They're selling food. Is it the right choice for you? I don't know, but I'm going to tell you, a lot of the stuff advertised is not going to be the healthiest, best choice for you. So, yeah, it's kind of fun to just get back to the basics. I tell patients, drink water, let's get moving, go to bed on time, wake up on time, but people are like, I'm busy. I don't have time for that. And I'm like, you have 24 hours in a day. You just got to find your rhythm and your routine. And you can't be going, going, going all the time unless you want to have some consequences. So, if you want longevity, you want to be around a long time and have energy, then you got to start creating a rhythm for creating health, function, fitness in your body.
Now, I mean, I had a bunch of questions, but you pretty much answered them all there. But I do have a question about pros, golf
Pros.
pros.
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah.
follow this routine and this rhythm and the stuff that you're talking about?
I
The
mean,
nutrition.
yeah. I mean, I've seen some pros. For example, I'm into heart rate, so you'll see some pros. They wear this little band around their arm, and they're watching their heart rate. My golf instructor, who he was pro, we when I first started with him, he's like, "Have you ever heard of heart math?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do it." And he's like, "Okay, so that's really getting it because in golf, if you create tension in your swing and your movement pattern, it'll throw off your ability to hit the ball as good as you can." So What heart math does is it helps calm you down so you get into that calm state, but still aggressive, but it's calm and you reduce the tension. So yeah, I've seen pros do that. A lot of the PGA pros, they have guys on staff, they have trainers that travel with them. I read a book called Golf Anatomy that talked about, 30 out of 32 of the pros travel with a chiropractor or a fitness person, and you'll go into these, the gyms near the golf course, and they're chock full of these pros doing their thing. Because I've seen some of these older guys, and you look at him, and you're like, man, that guy's kind of a freak. He's doing these weird movements, but the guy's moving joints so that he doesn't get injured, and so he can play. And most people sit all day, and then they expect their body to perform like a Ferrari when they did nothing to tune it up or change the oil or put the right fuel in it, and they expect a 200 mile an hour Indy 500 car to zip around the track with no problem.
The body's very similar to a machine. Like,
Yeah, I
if you
mean,
don't use
it
it,
is.
you lose it, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. It's a self-regulating, self-healing mechanism. And if you're in alignment, whether it's your spine, your structure, or your nutrition or your sleep, you're in alignment, you're going to express health and vitality, vim and vigor. My grandma used to call it piss and vinegar. I think we want to call it vim and vigor now. But just, you can tell, you look at somebody and you go, that guy's got good life force coming out of him. And you can look at somebody, same guy, a couple weeks later, and you go, man, something's not right with him. His energy's off. And then there's all kinds of things, but you just know, what are we doing to work on building that energy, our recuperative power, our vital force, so we can perform at our best, whether it's at a desk job or pro sports or being a mom, whatever.
Wow. I can feel your energy is super calming, by the way.
Thank you.
So
Chill out, bro.
you're
Yeah,
doing some good, you're doing the right thing, or you're doing something right. That's for sure.
I'm charging my heart rate monitor right now, or I tell you what my heart rate is. So this morning it was 52 beats a minute. And that's a really good measure. First thing in the morning, I'll get up and I'll measure my heart rate just to see. Because if I didn't sleep good, my heart rate might be up 7, 8 beats. And I went, wow, okay, I need to just slow it down a little today. I can't push it hard. But if you wake up and your heart rate's, low, you're like, man, I had a good sleep. I'm rested. I'm ready to go. And some days are going to be better than others, but you start tracking it so you can really get in tune with your body so that you're not doing things that are breaking it down.
Wow.
And we can start with the basics, like less carbs and more water.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if we had like a quick checklist, what would be like the top three things that you would be like, all right, you need to do this before, during.
Yeah. I did a podcast, I don't know if you saw it, but I did a podcast on the 12 things to create a better, healthier body this year. And so one of them was obviously drink water first thing in the morning. My favorite story is a patient of mine, big Marine guy. He'd always come in and he goes, man, I've got headaches. And I was adjusting him for, I don't know, 6 months, a year. And he's like, I still got headaches. I still got headaches. When? Every morning. I go, do you drink any water? No. Start drinking water. Hey, doc, my headaches went away. I'm like, duh. Let's go to the basics. Okay. Get 8 hours of sleep. Most people will do good with 8 hours of sleep. Some can do less, but 8 hours consistent sleep. There's ways to improve your sleep. We'll not go into that. And then get off the puffy carbs. I mean, that's why the Pillsbury dough man, he's a little chubby because he's eating those, the Pillsbury biscuits. You familiar with those?
Of course.
That's an old mascot, but it's like, okay, that's what happens. We start getting swollen or inflamed when we're eating these processed foods. So get off the carbs, more fats, more proteins. And then another thing is, 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, which is like a half a cup. So it'd be 5 cups of fruits and or vegetables every day. I'd rather see people eat more veggies than fruit because fruit has, carbs in it, which, I mean, they really go, well, it's natural carb. Yeah, it's natural carb. So is honey, so is sugar, as long as it's not processed. But still, I'd rather see people eat more veggies than fruit.
Yeah, without the dressing.
Make your own.
Okay.
Make your own dressing. There's
Okay.
lots of great dressings out there. We have an amazing Caesar salad dressing. It's basically made of avocado, or not avocado, but it's made of olive oil and eggs. And it's got some other seasonings in it, but it's all natural. There's no processed oils like the canola and the sapola. And those are all oils that have been shown to create inflammation in your body.
Yeah,
And
seed
some
oil.
people are going to be more susceptible than others, depending on their toxic load. That's why movement's so key. When you put toxins in, you got to move it out. Just like a river, if a river's moving, it's nice and clean, but if it's called a swamp for a reason because it's not moving. So a lot of people are swampy, if you get what I'm saying. Their toxins aren't moving out of their body because they're sitting all the time and they just keep putting more and more toxins in. Then we can get into plastics and all this other stuff, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, yesterday I felt super sluggish. I was in a 9-hour workshop and I
Well,
sat
yeah.
here for 9, well, not 9 hours. I mean, I went to the bathroom and stuff, but I was super focused and my coccyx, especially my hips, died. Yesterday I was really sore before I went to bed.
You know what? If you told me that, I'd be like, get a rebounder. You're like, what? Like a mini trampoline. So every hour, bounce on it for a minute, or every 15 minutes, bounce on it 1 minute. Boing, 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 boing. Just a little bit. You just, it's kind of like taking those, you get a drink and all the stuff settles at the bottom. And then it says, well, before serving. So that's what you're doing. You're shaking up all the stuff in your body because everything's settling. It's like an old car. It settles. That's why we warm up the old car. So shaking the baba, that's what I always tell my daughter when we'd give her these greens and they would sink to the bottom of the container. I go, shake your baba. So I'd shake them up, put them in suspension. But a rebounder is a good way just to get the lymphatics moving. And it's a good exercise too. And anybody can do it. So it's just a mini trampoline. I like the Bellicon. We have them on our website, on our synaptichealth.com. You can get
I
them there. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, I think we should probably do one of these every week or maybe every other week because I feel like I can ask you a million questions right now and go for another half an hour, but we want to keep these under 30 minutes. So I think this should be
Yeah.
a good wrap up. But I do have a lot
Yeah.
of questions. Maybe let's
Yeah.
line up.
And yeah, let's do it. We'll do it off the record. But one thing I want to mention too is a lot of people will start attacking, and there's, I've read so much stuff, and you'll get, I read the carnivore book, and he says vegetables are bad. Then you read another book, and vegetables are good. And so, I just tell people, I'm like, I don't want to say take it with a grain of salt, but study this stuff. People, they're so, I don't want to say lazy, but they don't take charge, if you will. I have a book coming out too. It's called "Take Charge of Your Health." Actually, my second edition of that's getting remanuscripted right now. But take charge of your health, and so everybody's at a different level, whether it's an amateur, a pro am, or a professional. Start somewhere and move. Just if you think about your health, you'll probably do the things that will move you in the right direction towards your health. And I always tell people shop in the outside aisles. Because, where you get in trouble is the inside aisles. That's where all the processed foods are. If we just start there, I'm going to shop in the outside aisle, see what they got. But now a lot of the outside aisles, especially check stand, it's all full of sugar. Next time you go to the store, just look and go, what do they have on these displays? The box ends, it's all sugar, processed foods. And when I say sugar, it's carbs, it's simple carbs. It's the seed oils, the bad oils. So we're eating bad seed oils and we're eating a ton of sugar. I think we could start there. But again, some people are more professional and they know a lot. And that's great. That's why I like to do this stuff, to involve conversation and not have an argument of, oh, you shouldn't eat animals or you shouldn't eat vegetables. You're killing vegetables. I'm like, hey, do the research and apply it to yourself, because health is a journey. And I always tell my patients, the road to health is always under construction. When you stop focusing on it, that's when things start to creep in that you don't want.
think that's a good wrap right there.
Love it.